Dan, good to chat with you again. What are some of the lessons, that CEOs need to take away from this crisis to be smarter and better working through it, if not coming out of it?
Good morning, Brian. A great question. I'd like to break that into maybe two pieces. One is, what are the things that a CEO should do now? And then what are the things that a CEO should do next? And if you think about the things that we should be thinking about now, the first and maybe most important thing is to know the difference between your 2020 response, the things that you're going to do today, and perhaps what your company did in 2008 or 2009. The playbooks have a lot of similarities, but there's some very, very significant differences. Condi Rice said recently that in her world, all she had to do as part of the Bush team was to convince people to get back on airplanes and assure there were no terrorists. In our instance, in every part of life, we have to assure that that the consumer feels safe and secure, and this is the first and most important part of our playbook. Secondly, there's these very obvious things that most CEOs that I work with and chat with have brought under great control, but get your cash under control, get the hard decisions made early and quickly, simplify your business as fast as you can. The important thing here is, if you're a restaurant operator, get your menu simplified, get your workforce simplified. And then lastly, importantly, is a big distinction between those that are really making great inroads, great progress today is communicate, communicate, communicate. The companies that I see are really making great progress and getting good outcomes are those that are communicating especially clearly internally with their people and frankly. Lastly,
many of our hold on, let me jump in here, Dan. I want to jump in 1 second, Dan, because many of our C-suite viewers on CNBC, they've gone to Harvard Business School. You may have taught them, or your colleagues may have taught them, on value creation models. That's kind of the idea, right? So they've got kind of the same thinking, if you will. Are value creation models the way that companies make money and manage their business, their balance sheets, and their assets going to change from this?
Yeah, I believe not only the way that we create value, but the way that we capture value, we believe we can see is changing significantly. Let me simplify it and say this. Imagine what it took to earn a 5-star review from a consumer. You're running a restaurant, you're running a retail store, and you knew pretty well how to capture a 5-star review back in October, November of 2019. If you assume that those are the same strategies that you'd pursue to achieve a 5-star review today, I believe that you'd see that the consumer has moved on you. The messaging that the consumer wants to receive, the product form that the consumer is interested in, the value equation, that is the price points that the consumer is interested in, categories of merchandise that they're interested in, have all changed. So you really have to change the way that you're thinking about creating value, and as importantly, how you're going to capture value to do that profitably.
Automation, the pace of automation, Dan, had been increasing before this. I know you go to China all the time. You see the supply chains that are at work here. Is the speed and pace of automation going only to accelerate from this? In other words, when we come out of it, if we come out of it at some point, we're going to look a lot more mechanical.
I think you're right. I think that automation is on the top of every CEO's agenda. And while they're in very different places, some CEOs are well down the road, some are just getting started. We can see the need for automation. The recent supply chain challenges that we've seen, for example, in the food sector, we had demand shock where we had transitions between food service and grocery. Half of food normally is sold away from home. And the other portion is picked up in supermarkets and so on. And most grocery, for example, is sold in a store, not online. And all of that changed. In other words, it became food service went away, restaurants went away, and obviously grocery moved into an online supply chain. All those things are very different supply chains. And managing and coordinating that in a rapid way.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot.
It's a very hard thing to do. Automation is the way that manufacturers, retailers, and distributors are going to get there, be able to balance and rebalance on the fly. And we saw, for example, in this last couple of weeks, we've seen that the companies that already have automation, they have AI, machine learning, tremendous amounts of data management tools. These are the companies that have been able to rebalance their manufacturing, rebalance their inbound supplies, and candidly get products to the shelf on time.